In this video, we'll be looking at work rate problems, and we will be relating that to what we've been learning so far with rational expressions and equations. All right, so in this problem, we have that Naz can finish a module in 7 hours, so we know that she can do that, and Andy can finish the same module in 5 hours. So those two things are our knowns. We also know, well, if it's taking Naz 7 hours to finish a module, then her rate is the reciprocal of that, meaning she's finishing 1/7 of a module per hour. So we know that she's finishing 1/7 per hour. And that is our first person here, Naz. And in the same way, we know that Andy's rate is, well, she's taking 5 hours to finish a module, so her rate is 1/5 module per hour. And that rate is always going to be the reciprocal of what we're given. All right, so now that we know that, what do we not know? Well, we do not know how long it will take for them to both finish the module. So let's take that and let's call that our variable. Let that be x. So x is number of hours it takes them both. All right, so we know that they're both working for x hours, whatever that is. If they work together, it's x. It's the same x. All right, so that means that 1/7 of x, or 1/7 times x, is how much, or what portion of the module that Naz will be doing. And we're going to add it to the portion of the module that Andy will be doing, so 1/5 of x. And that, once we put it together, should be all of the modules that they complete. And in this case, they're working to complete one module. So 1/7 x plus 1/5 x should give us that one module. So now all we have to do is solve for x to figure out how long it takes them both to finish the module. All right, so now how do we go about doing that? Well, we can solve this equation in multiple ways, but the way in which I would like to do it today is to find the lowest common multiple and divide everything, both sides of the equation, by that lowest common multiple. So we have a 7 here, or lowest common denominator, sorry. We have a 7 here, we have a 5 here, and we have over 1 right here. So our lowest common denominator in this case is 35. All right, so I'm going to take everything and multiply by 35. So we get 35 over 7x plus 35 over 5x equals 35, which really is 5x plus 7x equals 35. All right, I'm going to make that fit. I'm going to go up here to finish the problem. All right, so 7x plus 5x, or 5x plus 7x, will give us 12x, and that is equal to 35. So the number of hours that it takes them to finish the module together is 35 over 12, which is approximately equal to 2.92 hours. That's 2.92. Okay, all right, so then you want to check to make sure your answer makes sense. So look back at the problem. Remember that alone it would take Naz 7 hours, and alone it would take Andy 5 hours, and now they're working as a team. So it's supposed to take them less than it took either one of them to do it, and that makes sense. I mean, we could go in more depth and check in more depth, but that does overall make sense that it would take less time than it took either of them. All right, let's try one slightly different but similar. Okay, so after doing the last question, this question should be pretty simple. There's only one difference here. So Miss Hamilton can paint a room in 3 hours. So that means her rate is going to be 1/3 room per hour. So let's write that down as one of our things that we know. 1/3 room per hour. I'm just going to write 1/3, but you know that means 1/3 room per hour. And we know that Susanna can paint a room in 4 hours, so her rate is 1/4 room per hour. Now our unknown is the number of hours that it takes them both. So let's say x is the number of hours. So now we can multiply their rates by the time. So 1/3 x and 1/4 x. This will tell us the number of rooms that Miss Hamilton paints. This will tell us the number of rooms that Susanna paints. So when we put that together, 1/3 x plus 1/4 x, we want it to be equal to 5, because in this case, and that's the only difference with this question, in this case they're not doing one thing, they're painting 5 things, 5 rooms. All right, so now we go ahead and solve it. We look for the lowest common denominator, which in this case is 12. So we go ahead and multiply everything by 12, and we get 12 over 3x plus 12 over 4x equals 5 times 12, which is 60. And so we go from there. We have 4x plus 3x is equal to 60. 7x is 60. And so the time it takes them both to paint all the 5 rooms is 60 over 7 hours, which is approximately equal to 8.57 hours. So now if you want to think about whether or not that makes sense, it's going to take them 8.57 hours to paint 5 rooms. You want to look at how much that translates to as far as how long would it take 1 room. And you want to make sure that number is less than those 2. You could check in more detail, but that's a pretty good surface check, and it is good to go, and that's how you solve these problems.